All right, so we're going to get started. Welcome to our Adobe Character Animator and After Effects workshop. My name is Diana Keeler. I'm going to be your instructor for this course. And our plan for today, we are going to start with some introductions, and then we're going to talk about what is Adobe Character Animator. I know that many of you haven't used this before, so it's totally fine if you are brand new. We're going to start from the very beginning. We're going to do a super exciting recording with yourself today using Character Animator, and then we're going to go into After Effects and finish it off. So before we begin, I know that many of you know me already, but a little bit about me. My name, again, is Diana. You're welcome to call me Diana. And I'm an education leader, and I specialize primarily in video, but I have certifications in After Effects, Photoshop, Premiere. I also do some web design, UI UX design, animation, 3D design. I do some gaming as well. So if you have questions about anything creative, software related, Adobe stuff, I'm more than happy to answer those. I work full-time over at Occidental College down the street, where I'm the director of digital media and production. And so I'm in charge of all of our software and kind of supporting other classes that are production based. So I come in and I guest lecture about Premiere, and teach my own classes in Photoshop and After Effects. And then also am available for students looking for internships in the industry and stuff like that. So there's my email address as well. So if any of you have questions and want to reach out, and I know that many of you are taking this to kind of supplement your resume and work on your career, then I'm more than happy to help with that as well. And I also run my own talent agency. And I know specifically at Annenberg, there's a lot of you that are interested in kind of like management or working at an agency. And I know that that tends to be like a very secretive thing that you have to apply to an internet. And I'm happy to just answer any questions. And we take an intern every summer as well. And we've had a USC student in the past. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out as well. So diving in, Character Animator is very cool because it uses performance capture technology. So if you've seen mocap or anything like that before, that is using tracking points that are physically in a suit, and it's providing dots for the camera to be able to track that data. Previously, this was very cost prohibitive. So you need like the suit, you need the whole system. And now you can use performance capture technology specifically so that you can just do it with a webcam and your laptop, and it's a very low investment. So it works just with your computer's camera and your microphone. And if you don't have a built-in webcam on your computer, you can also use your iPhone as a camera input. And you can also pre-record your audio. So if you don't have a good microphone, I think most of us have a microphone in our laptop, but if you don't, you can pre-record your audio and import that into Character Animator as well. And the face tracking takes that facial data. So without marking yourself or having any dots there, it applies it to an animated character. These are called puppets, and we'll look at where you can design your own puppet and create all of your own puppets. And it's tracking it in real time. So as you move your head, your puppet is moving. As you're talking, it's applying lip sync technology. And there is a free version of this. So even if you don't have a full Creative Cloud license, you're able to access this and kind of play with it. But we all have the Adobe Creative Cloud, so we're going to be going over the paid version today as well. And so this was a really new and exciting technology. It came out around 2013, and it was one of the first times that you can actually talk to an animated character in real time. And so when they released this initially, they did a cool demo using Homer Simpson, where you could call in and you could actually ask Homer questions. And the video is actually still on YouTube. And it was cool because you could ask, like, what is your favorite color? What do you like about living in Springfield? And things like that. And rather than having a team of artists that then have to animate the answer to that, they pre-rigged a couple of very Homer-esque things like dough and like those types of things. And he would react and answer your question. And they had the voice actor there using capture technology and mapped it on the character so that he could provide a live answer. So, yes, this is like the big thing about all the Adobe apps. This is one of the very few ones that is available even without an Adobe Creative Cloud license. So before we continue, we are going to be using the full version today. So I would make sure that you have Character Animator, After Effects, and Adobe Media Encoder downloaded. So now that we've explained Character Animator, After Effects, if you haven't used it before, is very cool for compositing. And we're going to use it today to export our video from Character Animator into After Effects, do some motion tracking, add a background, and then we're going to use Adobe Media Encoder to render it in between Character Animator and After Effects. So I'd make sure that you have all three set to download. We're going to be starting with Character Animator. So if you want to set that one to go first, and then you can cue the other ones to install as we're working on this. So what we're going to do is animate ourselves. We're going to render it with a transparent background, and we're going to go into After Effects to apply some backgrounds, resize our character, move them around to just make our video a little bit more dynamic. All right, so I'll pause there for a moment and just make sure that we're all setting our stuff to download. All right, and then once you have that downloaded, we are going to jump into Character Animator. All right, so when you first launch Character Animator, it's going to take you to this home screen, and you'll notice that you have a couple different options over here in the upper right corner where it says Pro. If I click on that, you can see that we can use Starter or we can use the Pro version. The Starter version you'll see has some really cool preset puppets, and it's very easy to create triggers. The Professional one actually allows you to have a multi-track timeline, and you have the option of making your own character as well. So we are going to be using the Pro version for this tutorial. And you'll see over here that we have a range of different puppets that we can choose from. So puppets are controllable layered files created in either Photoshop or Illustrator. And all these have been made by people for you to use. And we have a huge amount of puppets available online as well. And more get added all the time. So if you are not resonating with any of these, you can also click on See More, and that will open up a web browser with a whole bunch more puppets to peruse. Some of these are just facial tracking, like over here, our red monster, for example, doesn't really have a body to go with him. And some of these, like the frog, are full body, and you can track your entire body. So not just your head in the motion tracking window, but you can actually do your arms and legs as well. So some of these have full body tracking. Some of them are just facial tracking. And so I'm going to start with a facial tracking one just to show you what it looks like. So this is my red monster. And you can see there is me in the little box over here. And you can see that it's already kind of starting to move with me. But what I'm going to do is first calibrate the input from my screen. And so it's really important to get your eye line correct. And oftentimes when I'm animating, I'm actually looking over here at the red monster and not myself in the window. So when I hit calibrate, I want to be looking wherever I'm going to be looking as I'm doing my recording, so that as my eyes move left and right from that point, it marks that area as being center. So I'm going to look at the red monster and then I'm going to hit calibrate. And now you can see that I have green markers around my eyes. And so you can see that it is tracking my eyebrows. So as I raise and lower, there's my eyebrows and my eye trace. So as I move left and right and as I blink, it's tracking my eyes as well. And it's tracking my mouth both through this mouth outline that we see here and also through the words that I'm saying. So it's actually listening for my audio input to try to get a very accurate lip read. You can see over here on the right-hand side all the different things that are being tracked. So I have my eye gaze, my face as I'm moving my head around, my lip sync. So like I was mentioning, how it looks like I am talking right now as the red monster. And then I have different triggers. And the triggers you can see over on the left-hand side where I have the different things that it can do. And then it also has what those are mapped to. So this is where I would change the mapping. And then when I come over to controls, this is what I would actually be using to make those happen. So you can see like the light bulb is number 1, for example. So pressing number 1, I now have a light bulb. 2, I have an exclamation point, questions, hearts. And then I also, on a lot of these characters, have different things that my character can do. So like here I have, now I'm looking bashful, or I'm looking mischievous, or I'm looking like I'm suspecting somebody of something. And you can see here, like I have pupil changes as well, like so. And I can even, on this one, put on some glasses. And I'm just doing that by pressing the numbers on the keyboard. So when you're recording, you're able to move your head around and talk and press these triggers as you record. For some people, that is a lot going on at one time. And so rather than putting the red record button on everything at one time, you also have the option of doing this in layers. So for example, if I wanted to turn off triggers for a little bit, then I can come back and turn off the recording on these other 3 after I've done one pass, and then only do the triggers. If you are very coordinated and you just want to give it a go, you can record all of them at the same time. And so just doing a sample demo recording, I might do something like, hey everyone, I have a very exciting idea today. So I was thinking that we could all record ourselves and think about what is a goal that we have for ourselves for the upcoming year. Because a lot of times we do this in January and we have this kind of like New Year's goal. And then come October, you've totally forgotten all about it. So today we're going to have another opportunity to reset that and think about what you want to accomplish for the remainder of the year. All right. And you can see playing this back, I have something that looks like this. Hey everyone, I have a very exciting idea today. So I was thinking that we could all record ourselves and think about what is a goal that we have for ourselves for the upcoming year. Because a lot of times we do this in January and we have this kind of like New Year's goal. And then come October, you've totally forgotten all about it. So today we're going to have another opportunity to reset that and think about what you want to accomplish for the remainder of the year. All right, so you can see there was my first pass of that. And if I wanted to go back and re-record, I can do another take and I can decide if I want to re-record over my eye gaze, my face, my lip sync, etc. And then coming back to our home screen, you can see if I wanted to do another puppet or change the recording, I can come over and open the puppet maker as well and design a puppet that is going to be all about myself. And so these are different puppets that you can click on, and each one is either a Photoshop or Illustrator file with different layers. So you can get pretty creative in terms of how you want yourself to look. And so if I did this kind of anime styled one, you can see that each one has different preferences down below. So if I come down to customize, you can see for this one, I can change my hairstyle, my hair color, and each one of these is just a different layer in that original Photoshop or Illustrator file. And so once I'm happy with what I've created over here, I'm going to give it a name and hit generate, and that's going to make a puppet for my scene. So I'd mentioned that these have both full body and facial tracking depending on what puppet you're picking. And so if I were doing full body, you just have to make sure that you have enough room to be able to see your arms and legs. And once you do, then you're going to recalibrate. So I'm going to tilt mine down a little bit where you can kind of see your full body, trying to get my legs in there as well. And you can see that it's actually working pretty well already. But what I'm going to do is come over and I'm going to hit calibrate. And on this one, it will give you a countdown because it knows that you have to step away from the computer a little bit. So we're going to do calibrate, and it will give you a countdown. You kind of want to stand with your arms apart. And now we can see that we are tracking pretty well. You can see right now that my hands are kind of awkwardly like spread apart finger-wise. And so you can see triggers wise, and this is going to look weird because I'm coming back to my computer, but we have quite a few different hand positions that you can use. And so this is where oftentimes you would record it first and then come back in and then do different hand triggers as you're talking, just because you can see facial wise, my arms are sticks and it's not actually recording my fingers. And so we can see over here, if we're gesturing, that actually captures pretty well. But if I wanted to swap out my hand positions, I probably would have to come in and do a separate pass of recording that. So you'll notice on this one that I have a background put in. For our recording, we want to make sure that we have a transparent background. And so to do so, we have a little background button over here. And I have transparent selected, but it's still showing a background over here. And it's because that background is actually on a layer. And so if I come over here, I can see that I have different backgrounds that I can pick from my controls down here. And if I click on no background, that's going to make that transparent. So we're going to be putting in our backgrounds and adjusting that when we go into After Effects. So for right now, you're just focused on your character. And what we're going to be doing is talking about a goal, like I was mentioning in our video. So here is our prompt for today. What is a goal that you have for yourself? So you are going to start by ideating what the answer is. And if you want, you can write it out. And when you put it on your screen, I would advise putting it like near your webcam towards the top so that you can read and your eyes aren't kind of going all over the place. But if you like improvising and you feel pretty good, you can just think about your goal and then go for it. Then you're going to record your narration inside of Character Animator. We're going to add in any triggers or gestures that's going to help tell the story a little bit better, and make sure that your background is transparent. So I'm going to do a quick demo and then give you some time to work. So coming back into Character Animator, I'm going to come back to the home screen and I'm going to look at the different puppet examples. And I'm actually going to create one that resonates with me. And this was one that I had made previously. So my favorite color is green, and I'm currently teaching Character Animator. So I put a little Character Animator logo on my shirt. And I tried to match my hair a little bit, picked brown for my eyes. I know that this looks like a very young, fun version of me. And then I'm going to call this Diana as my puppet. And I'm going to generate. All right, and then for this one, on a lot of these too, you can click on your arms and your hands and you can gesture. And so I'm going to do a combination of that. And then you can also see this has some directional animation as well. So like looking at the R and the E, you can see that there's also like hair danglers where when I move, my hair kind of swings around. So some of these have a dangle effect, like the jellyfish also has that as well. And these are different ways that you can enter and exit the scene. So I wouldn't worry too much about the positioning of your character because we're going to move them around when we're in After Effects. But what we're going to do first is really focus on the recording and then add in any kind of like gestures or arm drags. So we can see on this one, you actually have quite a few more options in terms of like the triggers here, but then we also have the body puppet and the face puppet, and limbs, for example. And so I'm going to try to do this all in one go, but you're able to turn these, like I was mentioning, on and off and do them in multiple takes. I'm also so that actually, let's see. I can gesture at the same time. We'll need to recalibrate so that I don't lose my neck. And then I'm going to step back and take a look. All right, so now I'm able to move and I can see myself and kind of gesture like so. And so at any point, if you're like, ooh, that wasn't a good calibration or you want to change, we can always calibrate again. Maybe this time I'll get a little bit further back. All right, and now I have a little bit just more room for my arms. So once you're ready to record, we're going to hit the record button. And I'm also going to make sure that I am ready to go because when I hit record, I'm going to get a countdown and I'm going to gesture and talk and do all the things at the same time. All right, so one goal that I have for myself for this year is to do the dishes. And a lot of times I'll eat something, I'll put it in the sink, and then I'm just like, somebody will magically do that for me. And then I get to the end of the week and I'm like, Diana, be an adult. And so I'm going to make a better effort. I'm going to say to do the dishes every other day because I know like doing the dishes every day, that's a big change in my life. So I'm going to, new goal, I'm going to do it every other day and we'll see where we go from there. All right, and then we'll watch it back. All right, so one goal that I have for myself for this year is to do the dishes. And a lot of times I'll eat something, I'll put it in the sink, and then I'm just like, somebody will magically do that for me. And then I get to the end of the week and I'm like, Diana, be an adult. And so I'm going to make a better effort. I'm going to say to do the dishes every other day because I know like doing the dishes every day, that's a big change in my life. So I'm gonna, new goal, I'm gonna do it every other day and we'll see where we go from there. All right. So once you're finished, like I was mentioning, we don't want any background. So on background, I'm going to make sure that I am on transparent. And you'll see this is one that gives you kind of like this instead of a transparent grid. So what you're looking for is something that is going to give you this transparent background. And then we're going to make sure that you have Media Encoder downloaded. And then we are going to go into After Effects. So I'm going to give you about half an hour. And for those of you watching the recording, you can like fast forward half an hour. And then we are going to take your recording and we'll export it and then go into After Effects. So you don't have to export yet, but come up with your scene, try your recording. If you need to go outside of the room and record so that we're not all talking at the same time, you're welcome to. And we'll regroup in about 30 minutes. All right, so we are going to continue with our exporting. So at this point, you should have your character recorded. And I know that some of you were having some issues with this part. So the key thing here is that we are going to disable the things that you don't want to record in a take by clicking on this red dot. So like if we're not doing triggers, for example. And then on our next round of recording, we'll turn it on and then disable the parts that we want to keep. So like you can see right now, if I turn my camera back on, that I am not having my mouth move even though I'm talking right now. So if I were to record, I can really just focus on my head movements and it's going to keep all of my audio and lip syncing from before. So the key thing about enabling these and disabling them, if they're enabled and you've already done one, it will create another take. So we can see right now I have one take of my right hand, one take of the camera input. And if I leave my camera input on again and then I record, it's going to create a second take on there. And so for each of these, you'll be able to select the take that you want to use. And then once we're ready to export, we also want to make sure, again, that your background is transparent. So I'm going to select the transparent background, and I'm also going to come over to the triggers and say no background. And then I'm ready to export. So hopefully at this time you have finished installing After Effects and Adobe Media Encoder. And so what we're going to do is come up to File, Export, and we're going to pick that second option. So Video with Alpha via Adobe Media Encoder. So the alpha part allows us to maintain the transparency in our background. So if we just did the first one, even though our background is transparent, it's going to export with a black background. And you also have the option of Adobe Dynamic Link that allows you to import your character animator project directly into After Effects. This can be a little hit or miss and often causes After Effects to crash. So I would recommend, given all these options, do the video with Alpha via Adobe Media Encoder. It's going to give you this pop-up box and ask you where you want to save your scene. So I'm just going to say scene, Diana, on my desktop. And then inside of Adobe Media Encoder, it is going to give me the option of adding it to my queue. So if you haven't used Adobe Media Encoder before, I'm going to share that screen so that you can take a look. And you'll see here we have Apple ProRes with Alpha, maintaining that Alpha channel. And then it is showing me my destination and my file name. And so the cool thing is that if you are doing a complicated character animator project, like a lot of times my students after this will start a podcast or create a scene where you have two characters talking to each other. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can actually queue multiple projects in here and do different takes of your characters talking to each other. And then you can render them all at the same time. So you would send them all to the Adobe Media Encoder queue. And then once you're finished, we're going to come over here to the upper right and start the queue. And you'll see that it will render through here. Now I'm noticing in my preview that it actually turned my background back on. So I can stop this export and let's go back to Adobe Character Animator. And I'm going to make sure that my background stays off. And so I can do this if I come over to the rig over here, and you'll see that I have all of the different layers that are there in Photoshop. So you can see this is the original PSD file. So I'm actually going to manually turn off these backgrounds so that they don't show up. And we can leave these so that they're trigger only as opposed to being on all the time. And when I come back to record, you should have a fully transparent background. So we'll try that one more time where we export with Alpha via Media Encoder. I'm going to overwrite my previous file and replace. And I'm going to once again hit the play button to render that out. And now I can see down here, I have that transparent black background. And it'll look black as we're rendering, but it is actually a transparent background. Ooh, I realized for those of you watching the recording, I'm not actually sharing that screen, but we can see that we have added that and successfully rendered it there. All right, so now we are all set to go to After Effects. So I'm going to open up my After Effects window. And we are going to start by importing our footage. So I'm going to create a new composition. Let me also make sure that I am sharing for all of you. And so I'm going to come over to new composition and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to say my goals. And for this project, I'm going to make my template 1920 by 1080, so HD resolution at 24 frames per second. And I talked for about a minute, so I'm going to change this over to 1 minute in duration. And you'll notice that our time code here is listed in hours, minutes, seconds, and then frames. So this is not an hour, this is 1 minute. And I'm going to click OK. And then for those of you seeing After Effects for the first time, if you want your window to match mine, I'm coming up to Window Workspace, and I'm currently on default. If you're on default and it doesn't look like mine, we can come over to Reset Default to Saved Layout, and it will just kind of nest your windows over a little bit. So we're going to start by opening up our Adobe Media, our project from Adobe Media Encoder. So I'm going to come over to File, Import, File. And I'm going to look on my desktop and we can see we have scene 2. So down here, it asks how I want to import it, and I want to import it as footage, and we'll click open. And now I can click and drag and drop down below to add it to my timeline. And if I scrub through my video, we can see there is my very cool character animator project. And so here I'm talking about doing dishes. And so now I'm going to go to some of my favorite stock photo sites. And I'm going to take a look at Pexels, Pixabay, and Unsplash. So I'm going to pull in some of the things that I'm talking about. And if you're unfamiliar with these sites, I'd recommend writing them down because these are great places to find stock videos and stock pictures for your projects. And they're all royalty free and they don't require a login either. So I'm going to share my screen just so that you can see what I'm looking at. And so coming over here to first Pexels, I'm going to look instead of photos for videos, keep it a little bit more dynamic. And I'm going to say dirty dishes. And I'm going to filter specifically where it says orientations for horizontal videos. And I'm going to look for something that talks about what I am talking about. So maybe like this one as an example. And then coming over here, I might look for some other examples like this. And then instead of dirty dishes, now I might also add washing dishes. Because we're going to talk about how I'm going to have such a clean kitchen, like this one, for example. And maybe something aspirational for my sink to look like. So the other websites I was talking about, so Pexels is great, Pixabay is also great. And so for all these, you can search specifically for videos if you're looking for that. So we could also do some more dirty dishes videos in here. Like so, or also washing dishes and see if there's any other ones that I want to get. Like this one looks pretty good. And then lastly, there's Unsplash. And while Unsplash doesn't really have a lot of videos in there, they do have really great photos that tend to be a little bit more natural than the ones that you find on typical stock images sites. So if you're looking for still photos, this is a great site as well. All right, so now that I've downloaded those, I'm going to come back into After Effects. And I'm going to import those the same way that I imported my Character Animator project by coming over to File, Import, and Files. And I'm going to come over to my Downloads folder and then grab those MP4 files. And I was just holding down Shift to select more than one at a time. I can preview any of them by double-clicking. And I'm going to start, just since I'm talking about being messy, with one of the messier looking ones. You can see right now they all look pretty zoomed in. And what I'm going to do is take one, drag and drop, and I can see how now my little character is standing on top of that. So if I scroll down that video, I can see I have a transform option. And chances are the majority of your stock videos might actually be needing to be resized. So in this case, this one actually doesn't. And this is where I'm going to resize both my background video here and also my video of myself. So this is where you can start to get creative and have some fun. We are going to take your character animator and then decide, should your character be big and in the middle? Should it be scaled down and maybe off to one side? Should it be on one side and then the other side? And so as I'm talking with this background video, we can see that the dishes are kind of off to the right in this one. So I might start where I pop in a little bit smaller. So same thing, I'm going to click that twirl down button and I'm going to come down to transform and I'm going to scale myself down a little bit and just plop myself over to the left-hand side so that my video looks
So
like this
one
so
goal that
far.
I have for myself for this year is to do the dishes. And a lot of times I'll
And then this might be a good place for another background. So to add multiple layers, I'm just going to do the same thing and I'm going to collapse this a little bit to give myself more space. I'd recommend renaming your layers as you go so that you don't have too much at one time. So I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to press the return key on my keyboard to rename. And I'm going to say dirty dishes. And I'm going to crop it by grabbing the end. And you'll notice that when you crop in After Effects, it actually gives you still a little grayed out area of how long the video could be. But you'll notice if I move my time marker past that, it's not going to display because the end trim point is over here. Then I can double click to preview my next video, so on and so forth. So I might do this one next. And I'm just clicking, dragging, and dropping. And I'm going to move this over in my timeline.
All right, so one
So
goal
I'm
that
going
I
to pop
have for
in.
myself
We're
for this
showing some
year
dirty
is to do the
water for a
dishes.
little bit.
And a lot of
And it
times I'll
is
eat
moving
something, I'll
on
put it
to
in the
this next
sink,
part.
and then I'm just like, some.
And then there I have this awkward pause. So I can also edit myself. And since I have just one video of myself, what I'm going to do is split the clip in half. And I can do that by coming up to Edit. And I'm going to split the layer or keyboard shortcut Shift Command D, Shift Control D if you're on a PC. And when I split the layer, it cuts it in half like that. And now I'm able to take this part and move it around, adjust it. And so I might do something like move it to this side of the frame. And then I could also do something fun, like maybe I want to flip it as well. So I can come up to layer, transform, and I might flip it horizontally. So now I'm facing the other way. Only downside is that I wrote on my shirt. So now my character animator sign is facing the wrong way, but that's okay. So I'm going to come back here
All
and
right,
we
so
can
one
see
goal
I'm
that I
popping
have for
in, I'm
myself for this year
talking, I'm
is to do
explaining
the
about my
dishes.
dishes,
And
and
a lot of
then
times
the
I'll eat
background
something,
is
I'll
going
put
to
it in the sink,
change.
and then I'm
And then I
just
have
like,
this awkward moment where I pause and I
somebody
think,
will magically do that for
and
me.
then now
And
I'm on
then
the
I
other
get to the
side
end
of
of
the
the week, and
screen.
I'm like, Diana, be an adult.
And so I'm going to split myself, move myself around, resize myself, and I'm going to vary that and change the backgrounds. So I'm just going to do one more example. where I'm going to double click like so. I'm going to preview what I'm seeing over here. So again, I would recommend labeling as you go. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit enter and say starting to wash dishes. And then I'll bring this one in and we can name this one doing dishes. And I'll bring this over here as part of my background video where I'm still talking. And then maybe over here, I become more important. So I'll come up to edit at the top. We'll split the layer once more. And then on the split layer, I'll twirl it down again, come to transform, and we'll scale me up. And then maybe put me back in the middle so that we have this nice kind of transition at the end where I'm
Because I know like
talking
doing the
and
dishes
then I
every
come over
day,
here
that's a big
and then I'm
change
big
in
again. And because now I can really see my character shirt, I might come up to flip that layer once more. So layer, transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. So now I have
dishes
something like
every
this
day, that's a big change in my
at
life.
the end.
So I'm gonna, new goal, I'm gonna do it every other day.
So once you're all finished with that, we are going to first and foremost save your project. So make sure that you're saving early and often. So I'm going to call this my goals. And then we're going to export it. So when we're exporting, we are going to come up to File at the top. Oh, and also if your video is much shorter than your 1 minute timeline, we're going to trim first. So I'm first going to take this video, and we can see that the background actually goes on for much longer than my character is. So I'm going to take my doing dishes clip and I'm going to split that as well. And I'm just going to delete this other part. Now I can see that they end at the same time or similar times. I can also be more precise about that frame. And then I'm going to take this work area end and I'm going to bring this in. So this is kind of like if you've used Premiere, this is my in and out points over here. And so once I'm finished with that, I'm going to come up to File, Export, and then I'm going to add it to the render queue. And your render queue is inside of After Effects. And in here, we are going to click where it says H.264. If yours doesn't say out H.264, this is where we would click to change that. And under Format, we're selecting H.264. And then output 2 is where we'll put our file name. So where it says not yet specified, I'm gonna put it on my desktop, called my goals, and we'll hit save. And then once both of those two things are filled in, now we're able to render. So I can come over and press the render button. And here is my final video. So we have about half an hour left of class, and I would encourage you to play around with it. There's lots of fancy things that you can do inside of After Effects as well. I know that some of you have used After Effects previously. So if you wanted to get fancy and add in titles or animation or things like that, you're welcome to. But if it is your first time, I'd recommend kind of just sticking with getting familiar. So importing things, putting them down to your timeline, splitting clips, resizing clips, flipping them, moving them around. And at the end, you should have a video that kind of looks like that. All right, so take some time to work, and then I'm going to post our Padlet link both in the chat window and shared with all of you. So if you'd like to export and share your project, especially if you're watching the recording on our Padlet when you're finished, that would be great. And then you can see what other people have made as well. All right, for those of you watching the recording, I am posting our Padlet link in the chat window for you. And if you've never used Padlet before, I really like this because it allows you to share your work quickly and easily, and everybody can see what you've made. So I'm just going to share my screen. And here is our blank Padlet so far. And you're going to click that plus button down in the lower right corner. Under subject, I'm going to put mine, so Diana's goals. And I'm going to click that first icon to upload. And over here, I'm going to look for my desktop. And I can see here's my exported video. And if you'd like, you can also write something about it, like hoping to do more dishes for the remainder of the year. And then you'll click publish over here. And so each person's will populate on this page. And I would encourage you to also check out each other's work. And that is it for today. So if you have questions after this, once again, I'll drop my contact in the chat window for all of you. Feel free to reach out and connect. And I would really encourage you to play a lot with Character Animator and After Effects. They're both very fun applications, and you can do so much with both of them. And this is just the beginning. So if you are also interested in more After Effects, we do offer a 10-week certification course each semester. We're currently in week 4 of our one for After Effects, but if you want to watch the recordings, you can jump in. Otherwise, it'll be offered again in the spring semester. And I would encourage you to play with Character Animator just because it's so fun and there's so much you can do. And who knows, you might be inspired to start your own YouTube channel and podcast. So thanks so much for watching the recording. I'm going to give you some time to work and save our Padlet link to be able to post and kind of share your work with everybody. All right, hope to see you next time.